Hi everyone, it's Caitlin from Really Big Plant. Thank you so much for joining me. I've been having the best spring, enjoying the outdoors every day and finding a new routine in my first season of sun in this new house. I planted up some strawberries a few weeks ago and I'm obsessed with watching them grow. And I've been spending every morning staring at the leaves and the developing fruit, and I found a very grounding new routine in being able to step outside with coffee and my pajamas every morning and experience the sun, and it's just been really amazing, and I've been taking time to soak up every second of it that I can.
It's been raining for days now, been running like a child. Can't feel the cold, well I'm lost here with you, lost in the woods. Lost as I choose. I barely see the sky now, we're safe under the trees. You tell me.
Got my Dieffenbachia back here, which is in this corner, and it's doing okay. It's lost a lot of lower leaves as usual. I feel like I'm always saying the same thing about this Dieffenbachia. It's always just getting taller and losing lower leaves, and doing great. So I've got it back here. But yeah, I'm just so thankful for the steadfastness of my houseplants, because I've been really focused on other stuff recently, and my houseplants are just continuing to grow and doing fine.
Once in a while I act like no one knows me, but backing with my eyelids closed. Yeah, my fault, I think I like it, I don't know. Once in a while I act like no one knows me, but backing with my eyelids closed. Nothing that I change about this moment forevermore.
Having indoor houseplants has always been a bit of an escapist fantasy for me, because I've lived in this tiny apartment in San Francisco for many years. Well, actually, I moved into a slightly bigger apartment in San Francisco right before I started my channel, so you never saw the tiny apartment that I was in for many years, and collecting plants has always been a way to feel like I'm not so cooped up in my very small space, and to have this feeling of connectedness with nature.
Hopelessly hoping for you to pull me back somewhere I don't belong without goodbyes. Made up my once in a while I act like no one knows me, but backing with my eyelids closed. Yeah, my fault, and I think I like it, I don't know. Once in a while I act like no one knows me, but backing with my eyelids closed.
Part of my relationship with houseplants has always been that I would stare at them and imagine this future where I had access to private outdoor space that was all my own. This has been my fantasy, and now I have it. I haven't been in consistently warm weather for about a decade, and it's been so amazing to soak in the sun like all the little lizards that live in my backyard.
Okay, I'll make one more hole. Far more effective to use the knife to make 3 sides and then cut off the last bit. You got a whole system.
A whole system.
Really big plant.
So a couple weeks ago, I got a little ahead of myself and a little ahead of the weather and bought a whole bunch of baby fruiting plants, and then it turned out to be still too cold for several weeks to plant them up. So I was keeping them in my garage in a little grow light setup, and they were not super happy, but I finally was able to begin the process of planting them up. So this growing season, I'm really focusing on experimentation. I have a couple of different challenges that I'm facing with trying to grow plants in my backyard, and I'm trying to ease myself into it. I'm in Southern California's Inland Empire, which is known to be kind of this desert valley area. And what that means for my weather is that at nighttime, it gets very cold. It gets into like the 40s. And then during the day, it gets really hot, and there's actually a pretty big temperature gap. And in the summers, this area is known to have heat waves. It'll get up to over 100 degrees during the peak of the heat during the day. But at nighttime, the temperature still drops to a much cooler temperature. So this type of climate can be hard on a lot of plants. So rather than just diving into planting a whole bunch of raised beds or stuff outside in my backyard, I'm trying to start slow and experiment because I'm not really sure what's going to be able to survive the extremes that I have here. So this first summer is going to be a bit of an experiment. None of my neighbors seem to grow food, I don't think. So I'm not really sure how successful we're going to be, but I'm definitely going to give it a try. So I have a bit of a slug problem in my yard. I have a lot of slugs that make their appearance at nighttime, and after it rains, they tend to come up onto my patio. So to protect against the slugs, I'm elevating my pots up using some concrete bricks, and then I have this copper mesh as well as a copper tape that I'm applying around the bottom of my pots and covering the drainage holes slightly with the copper mesh because slugs actually don't want to cross over copper. I think their mucus has some kind of like reaction with it, and it feels bad to them to touch it, so they just avoid it where they can. I don't think it like kills them when they touch it. I think they just like dislike it. I always imagine the feeling being like if you have dental fillings, when you touch a fork or a piece of metal to a filling and it just like feels like this shocking zing. That's in my head what it feels like for the slugs when they touch the copper wire. I don't know if that's true or not, but I know that they don't like to cross it. So I put the copper wire around the pots and we'll see how long it lasts. Copper does eventually oxidize in contact with air, which means that it has a chemical reaction and it changes. And I'm not sure if it's still effective once it oxidizes, like if the slugs are still repelled by it or if I'm gonna need to replace it. We'll see what happens. So I planted up this strawberry pot last month, and then I also got some cucumber varieties. I'm also trying to grow some watermelons using a tomato cage as a trellis, and we're going to try to do it vertically, and we might have to make some little hammocks for watermelons if they ever do grow, hopefully. But I've always wanted to grow watermelons. It's been one of my farming dreams for a very long time. It's always felt like this kind of unrealistic dream because you need a lot of sun and a lot of space. Like usually watermelons want to be planted pretty far apart, but I'm gonna try to grow them in this container and just see what happens. I kind of have a feeling that it might get too hot for these watermelons to set fruit. Or the fruit might get weird, so we're gonna just experiment. I've always said that I've got what I call FOMO, fear of missing out on melons. So finally planting up some melons, and hopefully I can live out my melon dreams this year. Although honestly, I don't have super high hopes. Eventually, I wanna have like a whole melon patch, do like a whole thing where I can grow a whole bunch of different kind of melons. But this summer is just a trial run. We're gonna see if we can start small and if we can manage to grow some fruit. Another thing that I also have to keep in mind when thinking about how to set up a garden in my backyard, as I'm trying to figure out where to put some raised garden beds and how to plant a garden in my yard, is that my yard is irrigated. So it was designed to be a big grass lawn, and it's irrigated to be a big grass lawn. So it's got sprinkler heads that pop up all around the perimeter and spray water on the lawn. So when I think about carving out a portion of this lawn for garden beds, if I put raised beds in, it's gonna potentially block the irrigation from reaching certain areas of the lawn, and I'm going to have to basically reposition my sprinkler system and redo some zones of the irrigation in order to create new zones where I can have an irrigated garden area. So it's a little bit more complicated than just there being like this grass lawn and I can plop the garden beds on top. I do have these sprinkler heads that need to pop up and spray the grass. So that is something else that I'm working with. And my husband loves the lawn. So like, while I would love to completely eliminate a grass lawn and replace the entire thing with maybe like an edible garden, my husband has always really wanted a grass lawn. He loves lawn sports, and there is this certain nice aesthetic to it that I appreciate. So we are going to try to keep the majority of the lawn. So I'm just trying to figure out what we're gonna do with the garden area with all of that in mind. My dog Phineas has really been enjoying the yard most of all though. I think he's completely obsessed with worms. He always has been. He likes to find them. I think dogs like worms. They have some smell that makes dogs very interested in them. Giving my dog Phineas the space to run around off his leash in our backyard has been such a blessing, and I can just tell that he's happier than ever here. His tail is always wagging, and it didn't used to, so I feel so happy to see him so happy.
Hey, no doing that to worms. Come on, get, what are you doing? Get up. Come on. Go on, let's go inside. Go on. No, go on. Come on. No crushing worms. What are you doing, crazy guy? We cut it in half, or should I just bite it? I'm gonna just bite it. Oh my gosh, yay! It's so delicious. Here, have a bite.
Oh my god.
It's good, right?
That's really good.
Good boy. Was that so good? Yeah, that was awesome. That was so good.
I'm gonna let him eat it. It's his birthday.
Yeah.
We love you so much, Ian. Isn't that so delicious? Now don't eat the rest of the stuff outside. Good boy, so yummy. bye.